these are 5 tips for Salmon Run. This is LED of LED Games. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. As of recording this video, I am officially an executive VP, but this does not make me an expert on Salmon Run. There are some really amazing top players in Salmon Run, and they 100% deserve their flowers. These tips have really helped me go all the way from intern, apprentice, part-timer, go-getter, overachiever, professional part-timer, professional +1, 2, and 3, all the way until executive VP. These tips have helped me, and I hope that they help you. This list is obviously not exhaustive and goes over some general rules of thumb that you would want to keep in mind, but are not necessarily case specific. I can do another video about case specific situations. If that's something that you all are interested in, please let me know down below. But also keep in mind that we're all here to learn and we're all here to have fun. We are all actively learning, and so if you have a tip that hasn't been included in this list, please make sure to leave it down below because we want to support one another with our knowledge. Number 1, trust your team. And I do mean this. This is literally number 1 for me. You must trust your team. I don't see enough of this on the field, honestly. So if you see that a Salmonid boss has appeared, I have noticed that when you're first starting to play Salmon Run, you're going to immediately rush to that boss, and it's everybody at once, all four of your teammates just rushing after the singular Salmonid boss, when it could really only be a one-person job, maybe 2, depending on the situation. But you have everybody rushing to this one singular point, and then that means that the entirety rest of the map is just open. And that's a problem, because if everybody's focused on one singular thing, that's when 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 Salmonid bosses can start just crawling in and closing in on the team. The importance of trusting your team is knowing, hey, there's a Salmonid boss over there, but I see my teammate is already heading that way, and I trust that if they need help, they will let me know by using their callouts. I will trust that they can handle it unless they ask for help. And so then that way, we're not all exhausting all of our resources on a singular Salmonid boss that is not necessarily that much of a threat. Of course, there are some Salmonid bosses that are huge threats, and so this is not a catch-all. I don't necessarily think that the idea of trusting your team is emphasized as much as it should, especially when it comes to Salmon Run. It is so team reliant, and you need to trust your team, and the moment that you start trusting your team more, the better you'll do, I promise. Number 2, ink as much turf as possible without losing focus on the goal. If you watch high-level Salmon Run players, you will notice that they have a lot of ink. They have a lot of ink around them, and this allows for high mobility. This allows them to get out of high-stress situations. It allows them to go over to certain areas of the map much quicker. It just allows for a lot more flexibility. And so in that countdown period between waves, for example, when it's going from 10 to 1, use that time to ink as much as possible. I see so many people just sitting there waiting, and I get it. Sometimes things happen. I need a drink of water or something, but for the most part, you really do want to be inking as much as possible. It will help exponentially to have a thoroughly inked space. But this is with the caveat. You do not want the goal of inking your turf to make you lose focus on the ultimate goal, because if your focus shifts instead to I need to ink as much as possible, and you totally forget that the whole point of this is to get rid of the Salmonid bosses and to put the eggs in the basket, you will lose because you're not focused on the goal. You need to be able to balance inking as much turf as possible while also keeping your eye on the prize. Number 3, know your role and know your weapon. This is really important, and I think something that for some reason when we start playing Salmon Run, we totally forget this idea of knowing your role. This is something that's so critically important for things like anarchy battles specifically, but when it comes to Salmon Run, I think a lot of people get like really honed in on this, like, I need to get the eggs, and so the moment they see a Salmonid boss, they're gonna run right to it, regardless if they have the appropriate weapon to deal with it. Like, let's say for example, you have a short range weapon and there's a steelhead in front of you, but your teammate has a long range weapon right next to you. you should trust your teammate to get that steelhead. And you know what? They're not always going to do it, so you're going to lend your support, but don't go thinking that you are going to be the one spearheading it alone. It is not. And so then that's when you start using your callouts. Also keep in mind that a lot of the weapons in Salmon Run are going to differ from the weapons in Anarchy or Turf. And so the more that you get to know your weapon, the better you'll get. Knowing your range, also keeping in mind the amount of ink you have. I will just say from the very beginning, I completely underestimated the amount of ink that I'm given in Salmon Run. I went into Salmon Run thinking I had the same amount of ink that I have in Turf War or in Anarchy battles, which it's just not. You get way more ink in Salmon Run. Just practice it. Just practice shooting for a long period of time and seeing how long you're able to shoot before needing to recharge. Because I promise you at the beginning, if you're so used to Anarchy and Turf War, you're probably underusing your ink and not even realizing it. Like, use that ink. It's there for a reason. Number 4, don't be afraid to lure. And what do I mean by that? I mean, when a Salmonid boss appears, you do not necessarily have to rush out to it at the edge of the map. You know, unless it's like a stinger or something that's going to stay out on the edges, then yeah, go to them. But for the most part, don't be afraid to lure. You want to get them close to that basket so you can put those sweet little eggies in the basket. Bringing them to the basket makes your job so much easier. It means that you're able to get eggs in the basket a lot quicker. Wait until they come to you. You don't always have to rush out to them. Now, of course, there's going to be a balance with this. You don't want to just sit on your hands and be completely rushed, but it's a balance. And understanding that luring is your friend is just going to help you in the long run. Number 5, remember to use callouts strategically. So in Salmon Run, you have 3 different callouts that are available to you. You have This Way and Booyah, and if you're splatted, then you have Help and Booyah. So when it comes to This Way, this is the most important one that you need to make sure to use strategically. So let's say, for example, you see a Salmonid boss and you call out This Way every single time you see a Salmonid boss on the map. That's a problem, because This Way should mean, hey, I need help, come this way. Or, hey, I don't know why you guys are all over there, come help me now. This way should not just be used for everything, because this goes back to the first one on trust your team, because you're trying to trust your team, but also you need to trust yourself. If you spam This Way, it loses all of its meaning and you're gonna have a bit of a disorientated team. Now, if you're splatted, don't forget to call for help. I have been on so many teams where people get splatted and then they just sit there and I had no idea that they were even dead or where they were. Just spam the help button. I don't even care. Spam it, because I need to know where you are, so then that way I can get you back alive if I'm near you, or I can go head your way. So make sure to use help. It is important. Otherwise, we're not gonna know. And Booyah. Personally, I like to start a match by saying Booyah, meaning like, let's go team, we got this. I don't always, but I think it's a nice team building thing. And if somebody does Booyah you during an appropriate time when you feel okay with it, then Booyah them back. It's just a nice thing to do. And I love that energy at the end of a match when everybody's booyahing and celebrating. It's just amazing. So those are 5 of my tips for Salmon Run. Please let me know what other tips that you have in the comments down below, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.